and welcome back to Mads World. I'm your host Mads, and I hope you've been enjoying the show so far. You'll have to excuse my voice. I've been at a festival for the last few days and it is a little bit croaky, hence the late upload of this podcast. If you like the show, please remember to subscribe, rate and review the podcast, and follow me on Instagram. It's at madsworld.mp3. You guys have been asking for some advice on your love and life dilemmas, and this week I'm joined once again by my friend Nora, who is an intelligent, empathetic and pragmatic queen. Nora works in tech sales and is a fully qualified NLP life coach, making her the perfect person to help me answer all of your burning questions. She is passionate about female empowerment and female mentoring schemes within corporate firms. In 2020, she completed an executive program at Cambridge University on female leadership. Outside work, she plays hockey and loves open water swimming. She grew up in the Netherlands, but also has lived in Belgium and Indonesia. Here we go.
Nora, hello.
Hi, it's good to be back, Maddie. How's life being young?
Oh, life being young is amazing. How is life being young for you?
Life being young has been proven to be quite good, with some challenges every now and then. But do you know, if you don't bleed, you don't grow. That's a Taylor Swift quote. Here we are.
If you don't bleed, you don't grow. You know what quote I like is, no, it takes pressure to make a diamond. I love that quote.
I taught you that, didn't I?
Did you? I mean, probably.
Pretty sure.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I'm full of one-liners, am I not?
You are. So, speaking of one-liners, I thought we could go into our speed date round where I've got some fresh questions for everybody listening at home to get to know you a little bit better. So,
Perfect.
My first question is, what is your favourite movie?
So, struggling to pick one.
It's hard.
Probably Precious. I really love.
Depressing though, so
I know
depressing.
it is, and otherwise if we're keeping a bit closer to my mother country, Bullhead by Michael Roskamp. Really good film.
Okay, what's it about?
It's basically about kind of the meat industry where people inject like probably steroid into bulls, and then it's about a little boy's trauma as well. It's honestly such a phenomenal watch. We have to watch it together, Maddie. You will love it. Bullhead by Michael Roskamp, and then probably Brokeback Mountain. I can't watch that film without crying though.
Do you know what? I've never even seen Brokeback Mountain, and
it
has.
My God,
I know,
Maddie.
And it's got my guy being a fabulous, sexy gay man, and I just need to see it. It's got Heath Ledger, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So okay, you and I need to plan an evening then where we're going to watch Bullhead and Brokeback Mountain.
We really do. We need to have a little marathon of your favourite movies. So
let's do it.
I think my favourite movie, it depends on genre, but the movie that really kicked off my love of like crime thrillers is Silence of the Lambs.
I can't watch
so good.
that. It's disgusting though, Maddie.
I know,
disgusting.
But there's just something about the guttural, like twisted minds of Hannibal Lecter, and just, I don't know, Anthony Hopkins at his best, and it's got Jodie Foster being a legend, like strong.
I do fucking love Jodie Foster. Like that woman
great.
Is a powerhouse.
She is a powerhouse, and she's a ginger queen as well, and we'd love to see it.
That's true.
What did the pandemic and lockdown teach you?
Well, quite a lot, I suppose. So I'm a massive extrovert. So it's taught me how much I love the girls and my social life. It also taught me I play hockey, and I couldn't play hockey for a while, and it actually made me realise how important hobbies are. I know this sounds very like dorky, but hobbies are actually very important. And then secondly, of course, that my family is in the Netherlands, and some parts of this year I was obviously unable to go home due like the travel restrictions, which I know you have, Maddie, as well, with your parents in Australia. So, and obviously I know that the Netherlands, like Amsterdam, London, is only a 45-minute flight.
Oh, I mean, you know, it's everyone has their own version of what, you know, hardship is. So,
but it was more interesting in terms of like a 45-minute flight is so close, yet it never felt more like far away than this year. So I think the pandemic did something personally to me in how I view distances.
Yeah. I mean, I totally respect that. I think everyone, especially those living away from home, sort of had this like penny drop moment when you're like, okay, it is only 24 hours when there's not a global pandemic. So I think other than, just respecting and appreciating the distance between me and my family, it was don't fall in love with your flatmates and don't kiss them.
And maybe don't get in a relationship with them. But
don't get in a relationship with them. Don't do anything with them. Keep them at arm's length. Don't
to be honest, like, Maddie, don't a lot of people get with their flatmates like at least once in their life? I mean, honestly, I've never done that, which makes me think that I perhaps like missed a boat somewhere.
You missed a boat somewhere. I've gotten with most of my flatmates, but my current house is the most platonic house of all time. I love it.
Good on you. Maybe that's good then for once, Maddie.
Definitely. The next question is, what is the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you recently?
I got two. One involves an Apple Watch and the other one involves flashing my breast. Which one do you want to hear?
Both.
Okay. So the first one is, surprise, surprise, I work in tech. I got an Apple Watch and I got
wow.
I know. I got a voice. Do you call it voice diction? Like diction?
Voice diction. Voice recognition?
Yeah, basically.
Voice control.
Yeah, I got Siri on, essentially.
Yeah.
And I was having a chat with my friend about a bloke that I used to have a fling with. Like, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, my Apple Watch is Siri's just a bit sensitive, and obviously she caught some of my words wrong, and then she starts to dial him.
No.
Yes.
Oh my god. What the hell?
I know. And then he was like on my Apple Watch and he was like, "Hey, Nora," and I was like, "Hey."
Oh my god. And what happened with flashing a titty? You have to tell me about this one.
So obviously I was on holiday in Mallorca and it was very hot, and I think me and my friend just came back from like the beach, and obviously a lot of the time I sunbathe topless because I'm European.
Yeah, it's allowed.
I'm Dutch and like very liberal. So had like a silk kind of singlet on the back of the bike, like the back of the motorbike when we were like driving back.
I know where this is going.
And like obviously the singlet like came down and like there was all these cars like beeping. I was like, what is this about? Like, I just didn't get it. And then like I looked down and then obviously I saw that the girls came out to say hello.
Both of them.
Both of them.
No.
Yes.
Oh my god. Not even
do
just
you know
one.
If you have it, flaunt it, Maddie.
Yeah, if you've got it, flaunt it. I mean,
and I was a little bit embarrassed, but then I thought, I was like, I got healthy breast. Like, I'm proud of my body.
Yeah, it's your body. You know what? Get them out if you want to get them out. Free the nipple, I say. And that is tagging Instagram. Let us free the nip.
Well, here we are. It's an Apple Watch and it's a silk singlet on Mallorca.
Amazing. I think the most embarrassing thing that's happened to me recently, and this is such a name drop story, but I don't even care. We're at this party recently and Liam Payne from One Direction was there. And I was like, right, guys.
He's so gorgeous.
Isn't he so cute? I was just obsessed with him.
Like, he's not even a snack. He's a meal.
He's a whole entire meal. He's a 3-course meal. He's an entree. He's a main, and he's a dessert.
He's the cheese board.
He's the cheese board, and he's the double espresso at the end.
Isn't he just divine?
Sex on legs. So he's over at this table, and I say to the girls, I'm like, right, this is my chance. I'm going to go up and I'm going to chirps. I'm going to graft. I'm going to get a date with Liam Payne. And they're like, okay, good luck. So I slide over to him. I'm like to him, oh my gosh, I love your tattoos. And he was like, thanks, darling. And I was like, you're actually like pretty fit. Like, like you're probably the fittest one here. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, so are you single at the moment? And he's like, unfortunately not, darling, unfortunately not. So I had to turn around and go back to this table of the girls and be like, yeah, look, got pied by Liam Payne. And they were like, you pretended not to know him and it still didn't even work.
But I have to, give you some credit for being so courageous, because I do have to say, obviously, you and I have the pleasure with going out with you sometimes, and you are great with chatting up boys, because I'm quite an extrovert, but you are on other level. Like, it's just when I
think I have no shame.
But I know when I go out with you, you are just the best win woman. Like, you were like,
that is a really good title to have,
you are pretty good.
Right, our next question is, what is the best thing that's happened to you recently?
Oh, this is quite sad. I don't really have an answer. Well, no, I do actually. I've got a phenomenal promotion at work.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm really, really happy about that.
Right, our last question is, who inspires you?
Good female leaders inspire me, because when I see female CEO, I know she's paving the way for me to fill that position one day. And in my group of friends, like, I'm obviously, like, I really look up to all my girlfriends, so I'm really proud of them. But if I have to name, like, two women, Sigrid Kaag, a Dutch politician, and also just a phenomenal debater, and of course Kamala Harris, the first US vice president, Madam Vice President.
Love this from you. I think mine are definitely less profound than that, but I really look up to female writers. I feel like I'm reading so many books written by women that I sort of look up to. Like, I'm reading this one by Pandora Sykes at the moment, and I've never read anything from her. And honestly, she's so intelligent, so profound. And I'm finding everything I'm reading from her, I'm just like, oh my God, how have you written this exactly how I've thought about it in my own brain?
Yeah, so good. And do you know, the other day I saw this really interesting quote, or more of research, I can't even remember where I saw it, probably on like a Dutch newspaper, but that man must read more by female authors. But men so often read male authors, and I'm like, no, you must read from a female author, like, honestly.
Yeah, I find that weird because I find myself always reading stuff written by men. But yeah, I do think it is so true that men are, I don't know if they're reluctant to read more by female authors, but I think they're just drawn to them. Yeah, it's like an unconscious bias.
So I'm now trying to get my brother to read more from female authors, but
that's what we want.
He's pretty good anyway, maybe because he's my brother and he has a great girlfriend. So he's been raised well.
We've got to ease them into it,
this
don't
is
we?
True.
We've just got to start buying all the men in our life female written books for Christmas.
Would you date a man that doesn't read?
Probably not, because they probably have shit conversation skills, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, fair answer. Yeah.
Why would you date a man who can't read? Can't read or doesn't read?
Can't read. That's taken a bit far. Then, maybe there's a reason that he can't read.
Yeah.
I'm very attracted to a man that reads. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge mood. So, speaking of huge moods, I am so excited to have you on the podcast, life coach, amazing, strong, independent woman, to help me answer the questions that everyone has been coming to me with that I am struggling with, Nora. I'm glad to have you here. So let's jump into these submissions. So if you're out there listening, I'm so sorry if we haven't been able to cover your submission today, but please keep getting in touch with me. I'm sure it has just slipped my mind. So our first submission is, I had a discussion with my friends about taking someone back after they cheat on you. It seems like women always forgive easier than men. Why do you think this is? And do you think it's okay to return to someone who cheated?
Wow. That's a big question, isn't it?
Huge.
Obviously, I often say this, but as an NLP coach or as a coach in general, as someone or like a therapist, obviously we try to kind of refrain from advice, right? So, and obviously this question is asking for my opinion. So I'm going to try to kind of digest it. But I think it's actually a very complex question because it hits so many factors, because there's actually not really one size fits all. Because I think when we think about like long-term monogamy, then I do think that cheating, unfortunately, is something that happens at a large scale. And I reckon if you're able to forgive someone depends probably on the betrayal, how often it happened, and like the scale and like the situation. So I know people who have successfully worked on their relationship after one of the partners has cheated. I also know people that have split up because of it. And if you're looking for more of an like intellectual framework, or just a really inspiring lady talking about it, I personally love the work of Esther Perel on cheating and monogamy. She is a Jewish Belgian psychotherapist and does an amazing TED talk on why people cheat. Okay. So highly recommend her work if you want to learn about this and how often it actually happens.
I'll link that in the episode description as well if you want to learn more about that.
And I think personally, human beings are messy. And I think most people are good people and want to be good partners, but sometimes I think shit happens.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I take it. And when it comes to the gender question, I refuse to think that men do XYZ more often than women. I think that's quite a dangerous narrative that I personally, I don't think is a good narrative to have. So I think we're in popular culture, if we watch Love Island and we're talking about, oh, the lads are just having like a lads holiday when they're going into Casa Amor. We just create this habit of talking about men who cheat more, but I actually think women cheat too. And men forgive too, but maybe it's less talked about.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So maybe there is a sense in truth to the fact that women forgive easier, which could have to do with conditioning, that girls are maybe taught to take more crap or taught to, to keep the family together. But that's just a guess. I don't have any data to back it up. And I would like to think that both men and women cheat just as much.
I mean, coming from a personal perspective.
Yeah, because you've been cheated on, haven't you?
Yeah, I got cheated on a few years ago.
Sorry to kind of put the finger in the wound.
It's okay. Like, waggle the finger right at me. I mean, that's why the podcast is called Matt's World. But I mean, I got cheated on probably 3 years ago now. And then I took the person back, thought they'd changed. They seemed really remorseful. But in the end, I think it just came down to him not being ready for full-time commitment, but also not wanting to lose me. So it was kind of wanting to have your cake and eat it too. And obviously it happened again. I found out. And then I think the second time, because I'd convinced all my family and friends that it was all better, he wasn't going to do it again, and then having to go tail between legs back to them like, yeah, look, I fucked up.
But you didn't fuck up though, Maddie.
Yeah, I didn't fuck up. But I mean, yeah, I think it's just so hard to be objective in those situations when you're not sitting in them, Like when it actually happens to you, it just feels completely different. But if I am to look back on that situation now from an outsider looking in, I'm like, Mads, you fucking dickhead.
Yeah, but you learned from it and you grown, right? So obviously I probably gave a bit more of an intellectual answer to the question.
Yeah. It's
just very complex and I think very personal. Do I think if you've been together for 6 or 7 years and you just bought a house and the other person cheats and it was a one-off, do I think then you should knock it in the bin? I don't know. I think there's also, who's to say, there's also something incredibly powerful at acknowledging that your partner is also a human being, has done something extremely stupid. It happens.
Right. Our next submission is, I think I'm in love with my best friend. Should I tell them? So I'm actually planning to do an episode on can men and women just be friends? But I think for the purpose of this submission, what do you think, Nora? Would you tell the person?
Yeah, I think I would look at it in 2 ways. I think the main question is do you want to action it? Because actioning it means that you potentially have the risk to get rejection and it will possibly have an implication for your friendship. But actioning also means at the other side of fear that you can give something the chance to blossom into something.
A lot of the best romances, and this is something I always say on this podcast, they're born out of friendships. So you never know.
This is true. So I think you just have to ask yourself, how deeply in love are you? Because I personally have this opinion, Matt, and I think if it's more of a crush, I think crushes are good for the soul, Maddie. In my opinion,
they're exciting.
I agree. I love the feeling of having slightly the hots for someone, and then you can daydream about them, and it's a really lovely, harmless feeling, and it just makes your day so much more enjoyable. So if it's just a crush, maybe consider it just enjoy it for what it is, which is a really lovely giddy feeling. If you feel like being so in love is also making it difficult for you to be his friend and you actually want to give it a shot, by all means, go ahead.
And sometimes I think if you opened up to that person, depending on how good of friends you are, you can just get past it if they did reject you. I think if your friendship is that strong and it's just something that you can come up against and then look back on in a year's time and be like, remember when that happened, I think the worst thing that can happen is they reject you and say, I never want to be your friend again. But if the strength of your friendship with people. So I think only you know whether it's possible to bounce back from something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Lovely. Next submission. This is quite a long one and quite a sad one, but here we go. I'm in a job I hate and it kills my soul. I've tried to change my mindset, seen it as a salary to do things I enjoy, but it just makes me want to cry. I've lost pride in my work and I just don't really care, which is unlike me. I know I want a career change. I search daily trying to work out what I would enjoy, but I'm at a loss. What do you recommend?
So I think, first of all, I would like to start with a compliment, because you've reached out to the podcast, so you are actually committed to making a change. You've tried to reframe the problem while, looking more at the money side of things. It sounds like, you know that you need to make a change, and quite often that's the hardest bit for people. So great. You've gotten to this point. Marvelous.
Yep. You've recognized it, and that is the massive thing.
Yeah. But I think now the point is where you are is right. How am I going to use that energy, and I suppose channeling it to actually get myself going onto a new journey. And I think quite often it starts with one simple step. Maybe that's signing up for an open evening at like the Open University, looking into extra education.
Great idea.
Or is there a subject that you've really enjoyed at school and always thought, oh my God, if I can go back to university, I would do that. Sometimes it starts with just one single step of movement, and then we're in that momentum, we found motivation to keep going. And I've always found it quite interesting that sometimes people say that motivation comes before you start to do something, but I have found that quite often motivation keeps on going when you've started something. It's the same with saving, right? You start to save and you start to see that your money is bulking up in your savings account, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to keep on going because I see my pounds are, it's getting more and more. So just one single step. What can you do tomorrow that's going to help you get towards your next step? And maybe that is just an open evening at university. Secondly, consider working with a life coach, because I think life coaches are so good for these kind of questions. They can do exercises around core values and core strengths, which perhaps gives you an idea of what you would like to move into. So that is an idea. Get on LinkedIn and find some roles and titles of things that interest you, and then schedule time with people to learn about their job. So those are just like 3 more kind of concrete actions that you could action.
I think from my perspective, I've always enjoyed my job and working in media, but I think starting this podcast and realizing what I love doing from the pandemic, like what did I always find myself being drawn to? And it was creativity, whether it's reading or drawing or writing or making the podcast, which is what it ended up being. If you can sort of look at what you're most drawn to when you have spare time and then make that like a side hustle, then maybe you can see your job as a way to just kind of make money and then eventually switch it over if your side hustle becomes successful enough. I mean, that's kind of my plan with the podcast. But I'm finding that I'm enjoying my everyday job because, in my spare time and after work, I get to do the podcast, which is something I really love. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is sometimes about more of a side hustle than your main hustle.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice. And I think also, we have this very interesting fixation in the Western world that your job must be everything, but like work is not leisure, it's not a hobby, work is work. So I think by the sounds of it, Maddie, you kind of have a good balance where that work is not leisure, but you enjoying it enough to kind of keep going. Where I felt this lovely girl or boy that sent in this question, the balance is completely gone. Do you know?
Yeah.
You're probably quite miserable. So I think also perhaps take some of the pressure off, because you decided that you want something differently and you're going to action it. And I think in these kind of moments in life, I would also challenge you, can you shift your perspective? Because how would you feel or talk to yourself if you would simply trust that at one point you will find a lovely job? Because sometimes when we have that feeling of trusting that it will all be fine and that you will find that dream job or you will find that amazing person, it sometimes takes the pressure off and just lets you enjoy the moment of the journey. And I'm not saying this is a fun part of your journey, but if you trust that you will find it and that this kind of suffering is necessary to find the next step, then maybe that allows you to breathe a little bit more.
Yeah, and I guess it does take the pressure off. It's sort of like anything, like if you're on a diet or if you're trying not to drink or, whatever it might be, the main thing is just trusting that you'll make the right decision at the right time. So whether you're trying to stop eating junk food, you just have to trust that the next time you're hungry, the next time you go to have a meal, you're going to make the right choice. Or if you're struggling to stop drinking, you just have to trust that when you're given those two choices between drinking and not drinking, you're going to make the right choice, because the more you overthink it, it's not going to change what you end up doing in that moment. So I think you're so right in saying, if you can just sort of trust yourself, trust the process, and give yourself a break when the moment comes, when the right job comes up, like just trust that you're going to make the right decision for you at the time. And then hopefully that just takes some of that anxiety and pressure off.
Yeah, I agree. And I think be gentle on yourself to not beat yourself up, but do not stop taking actions, because I think you probably need the actions as well to keep motivated to keep going.
Definitely.
So perhaps just say one small step a day.
Yeah.
Every day I'm going to do something which is going to help me get the dream job. And maybe one day it's just collecting 5 LinkedIn profiles. And the next day it's finding a life or career coach that can do 5 sessions with me. And the day after that, I'm going to sign up for an introduction evening at the Open University. If you just do something small every day, it does add up.
Love it. Love it, Nora. Here is our second last submission. I'm struggling with how I view my body, and I swing between loving it and feeling sexy and absolutely loathing it. How can I change this?
Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it?
I feel like a lot of women sort of have these struggles, and men. I guess it's sort of a cliche that it is only women. I think it's just less spoken about amongst men, but they definitely feel these things too.
Well, I think first of all, like loving yourself completely or loving your body, I mean, that's a very ambitious task, right? Isn't it the process of self-love? It's never really finished. So I think maybe you don't have to love your body, you just have to like it. You just have to feel good enough in it, because I don't wake up every day and thinking, oh my god, I'm a divine woman. I wake up some days and I'm like, my bum looks pretty good in those Levi's. But then I also have days where I'm like, oh my god, I feel so bloated. So I think that's very normal to one day feel X and then the other day feel Y. I think you just need to come to a point within yourself that you feel good enough in your body.
Yeah.
And what really helps for me, and I hope this helps you too, is not looking at it as a way of, sexual object or I need to be pretty. I'm a bloody I got a healthy body. That's something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
So write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. Like, I got a healthy liver. I can eat and enjoy the food that I've cooked myself. Or my feet have walked me to the park today where I've met a friend. Look at it like, what is your body enabling you to do, rather than looking at a piece that needs to be pretty, that needs to be, your beauty is not rent that you pay to live in this world.
Yeah, 100%.
It really isn't. And also, again, like, look at your body as you are like a small girl. Like, you would never want your small kind of version of yourself who's 5 or 6, you would never want her to neck off your own body.
Yeah, and I think something that I read as well that was so, it just hit home with me, is that, you look back on photos and you think, how did I think that I looked bad there 5, 10, 15 years ago? Like, how did I think I was fat there? How did I think this? How did I think that? But that just proves that it's never been about your body. And we're going to look back on photos from now and just
so strong.
Like the point you're at now, you're probably looking the best that you will look in your life. Like, we could look back in 10 years and be like, I can't believe I wasn't happy then. It's like, it's not about your body. It's just about like the way that you perceive things. And I think, if you just try to have gratitude, that's all you can really do. I really love what you've said about that.
Yeah, look at it as it's a healthy body. And also what's helped me with, start complimenting your girlfriends with how strong and healthy their bodies are, rather than saying that they look great. I'm not great at this because I love telling my girlfriends that, they look sexy and, their bums and asses, or, their bums and tits look fantastic on a night out. Or that they're very pretty or gorgeous. But, I think when you then start to compliment other women on how strong and healthy they are, that helps you in your own journey. And one thing that I'm so grateful for my mom. I'm sharing this because perhaps there are other mums listening to this podcast. When you have a daughter, the way you speak about your body is how she will feel about her body. So if you have a child, and there's a lot of research about this, you can give it a Google. I will perhaps send you the research on this, Maddie, so you can share it in the link or like the podcast notes. But how a woman feels about her body is very much influenced on how the mom talks to herself about her body.
Okay, yeah, no, that's really interesting.
So if you've got a daughter, from now on, get in front of the mirror naked and be like,
look at this woman.
I'm a badass woman. I've gave birth to a boy or a girl, and I'm powerful. I got a healthy body. Isn't that great?
Amazing. I think, just being able-bodied, it's easy to forget like how much we actually are capable of, and it's pretty incredible when you think about it. I mean, when you're on the beach, hating yourself in a bikini, you just think there's some people that would love to be on a beach, but they're, not even able to do that. So,
but also, like, if we're really talking about inclusivity, all bodies matter. Also, if you're disabled, but I think it's trying to stop looking at it at perhaps a male gaze. I don't know if this is a boy or a girl, but like, your body is not there to please man, or like, as I said, beauty is not the rent that you pay for the world. If you want to learn more about the male gaze, I really like Florence Given, her book.
I love Florence Given. It's my dream to get her on the podcast, but she's a really high in demand woman. So everyone start rallying to get Florence Given on Matt's World, because we would be an absolute unit on here.
I think you guys would be. You girls would be.
Our last question is, my boyfriend is moving away and I don't know whether to go with him. Any advice would be amazing.
Yeah, so many questions around this. Mainly, why are you not sure? So I'm quite keen to understand here where the doubts sit, because it's totally okay that you have doubts, right? It's a bit of it's a big jump. So are you scared to leave your job, or do you not like the country or the city where he's going? Are you feeling unsure about the relationship, or are you just someone who prefers to stay in their own environment? So I think you just need to have a really first, like a bit of a session with yourself about where the doubt really sits. And I think then you need to have a really upfront discussion about what you're both expecting of the move. What job are you going to do? How are you going to make friends? How are you going to spend your time together? Who's going to pay the bills? Like, for how long is it? Like, would he be, or she would be willing, I would say he in this case, the boyfriend, would he be willing then to move with you somewhere else? I think, like, get to the details of it. And also discuss the other side, right? If you don't move, what is your relationship then going to look like?
Yeah, I think just having those adult conversations where you're realistic about your, 5-10 year plan, seeing if you the idea of your future, both of your futures aligns and can coexist, and you can both be happy in a situation. And whether that means both of you need a compromise or both of you need to give up certain things so that you can be together. I think the hardest part is that conversation. And I've had that conversation and it was put off for far too long, and it ended up being an absolute nightmare. So I think having that conversation early on, even though it can be a conversation that ends in heartbreak, is, it's sort of like short-term pain for long-term gain, whether that means you stay together or split up.
Yeah, and I think that's why I would also recommend first to really do a good check-in with yourself. What is important to me? Like, what am I willing to compromise on? Because then you can go into that conversation, as you call it beautifully, an adult conversation. Then you can go into that conversation speaking your authentic truth, and then how much water you can add to the wine. So you need to have the full picture to compare both. And also in these situations, sometimes flipping it, right, helps as well. Like, how would you feel if the boyfriend is going to decide for you and says that you can't come with him?
Yeah.
How would you feel then?
I mean,
because then I would be like, honey, excuse me, I'm coming with you, whether you like it or not. And I think, obviously I always refrain from giving advice or talking about my personal experience in the podcast, also because I like to keep my personal life private, but I'm hoping it perhaps helps you, so that's why I'm okay to share it. But I've obviously moved for love 5 years ago to London, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. no matter the destination. And I will tell you why, because the world is such a large place to explore. Like, how amazing if you have the chance to do that with the person you love. And for me, I had a long-term relationship with him, and we're no longer together, but we're still good friends. And I built a career in London that I would have never had if I wouldn't have moved. I've gained so much strength and independence, so I would do it again, even though we're not together. And to have even a more specific example, my mom moved for my dad to Italy in the 80s, 1980, for 2 years for his job. They've been married for 33 years, and Italy remained such a shared love for the both of them, and they both speak so fondly of that chapter, of that season of their life. So you probably obviously hear it, I'm biased, but for me, if love calls for an amazing experience abroad, I would always answer that call.
And Nora, do you know what the main thing out of moving abroad is? Is that you met me and you've done this podcast for Mad's World. So
I know, it was all worth it, wasn't it, really?
I thank you so much for coming on, answering everyone's questions. I really hope this has helped some of you listening, and even if you haven't submitted a question, I've hoped that it's been an interesting listen and that you may have learnt something just in case you encounter any of these issues in the future. So thank you so much again, Nora, and we'll hopefully have you back for another Ask Nora very soon.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me, Maddie. It was mine. The pleasure was all mine.
Love you so much. Bye.
Bye, darling.
I hope you enjoyed my chat with the gorgeous Nora. Please let me know on my Instagram. It's @madsworld.mp3, or on my website if you have any thoughts or stories of your own to share. You can also submit them anonymously. Love and elbow taps. Peace.